and welcome to Indian Express Opinion. Our top story today is the treasure trove of files released by the CIA in the US on Osama bin Laden. What was this man all about? The man who held the world to hostage. And we know, of course, that he and his men were behind the 9/11 attacks in the US in 2001. But to explain and describe and tell us a little bit more about this story, I have with me Praveen Swami, the Strategic Affairs Editor of the Indian Express. Praveen, this is an interesting treasure trove.
It's going to be fabulous when we can actually start pouring through it. Unfortunately, the CIA site where these 470,000 documents are has been down since the morning.
It's crashed? The site is crashed?
Well, it's a bit odd. It says there are some technical problems they are trying to resolve.
Okay.
It doesn't say what those technical problems are. Three earlier tranches of these documents were released on the Directorate of National Intelligence site, the last in January this year. Now, at that time, when the January documents were released, we were told that this was it, and nothing more was going to be released. But now here on the CIA website are 470,000 documents.
Gosh, that's a lot. So they obviously have all this. Now, before I ask you what there is in those files, Praveen, tell us, what is the meaning of this? After all, Osama bin Laden was killed 6 years ago, May 1, 2011.
Right.
Okay. So, how does the CIA, the world's perhaps most powerful spy agency, collect and have this kind of information? And what took the US so long to put it out?
Well, the first thing is these are documents that are said to have been recovered from bin Laden's Abbottabad house by the SEALs who went in, by the special forces who went in and then just grabbed everything they could find.
Right. That was a crazy midnight raid.
Crazy midnight raid. One helicopter went down. They stuffed everything they could find into this other helicopter and took off, knowing that these documents, these were things that were on Osama bin Laden's personal computer, and it took them a while to sort of get everything out. A lot of this stuff is printed, but there are also fantastic things like bin Laden's personal diary, which is kept in a notebook sold by a stationers called Lucky Stationer in Pakistan.
Wow.
So now we know where bin Laden's sidekick shopped for his stationery.
In Arabic, I presume.
In Arabic, very neat handwriting. Now, there are also amazing things like movies that maybe he watched or his grandkids watched. So there's
he and his third wife.
Or his third wife. His favorite wife watched. There's Kung Fu Fighter. There's Ice Age, which is, many of our viewers, kids may have watched.
Okay.
And there's one from National Geographic about India.
India?
About India.
Okay. What does he want to know about India? The Taj Mahal, which some of in the BJP want to
It's a National Geographic documentary, so it must be the Taj Mahal and other, great natural, great historic wonders.
You can't accuse of Osama bin Laden of not wanting to know, not being a curious man.
Hey, there's a lot even from the earlier tranches that show that he was, there was this image of him painted in the media that he was very cut off and isolated and had nothing to do, knew nothing. But that's not what comes out from these documents. He's really plugged into global affairs. He's discussing things constantly with al-Qaeda's franchises around the world. There's one fascinating one where he says that I'm going to be doing this big video release, and he tells his guys that talk to CBS News in the US, but tell them they can only have the video exclusively if they'll carry it all.
So he has the detail too.
He has the detail too, and he says, I nominate CBS, but remember the condition is get it all. They have to carry it all.
That's quite incredible.
That's quite.
And the fact you said, Praveen, that he was found in Abbottabad, which is a stone's throw from the Pakistan Military Academy. Now, what does that tell you? And does the CIA also tell us what we need to know about this?
Jyoti, as you know, there have been Kalata Gaul and others have argued that the ISI was actually protecting Osama bin Laden, keeping him carefully guarded in Abbottabad. There are others who say no, that's nonsense, and that he had no support at all from the Pakistani establishment. Now, for the first time, we're going to be able to look inside this sort of giant trove of documents and see what they actually tell us about his communications with people in Pakistan. We know that he was in touch with various people to ask them, to move his family around or to bring in money. But now we're going to be able to take a look at this somewhere in this, mass of 470,000 documents. You don't expect anything overnight.
So we will know who these ISI handlers are.
If there are ISI handlers there, we don't know that for a fact, but we will know who these people were, what the web of relationships between those people were, who was talking to who about what, and arrive at some independent assessment of this stuff for the first time.
So what does that tell you? Why is the CIA or why is President Trump releasing these files at this time?
One thing that this that has already that was being sort of pushed to front stage by the U.S. intelligence community yesterday were al-Qaeda's links with Iran.
Okay.
And what emerges from the documents we've seen so far is a very complex picture. Osama bin Laden hates the Shia. He's not ambiguous about this. He tells people that I find what Shia worshippers do in Mecca despicable. He uses very strong language about it. But he's also saying, wait a minute, Iran is our enemy's enemy. It's America's enemy. It's fighting the Americans. Iran is holding some al-Qaeda people, and al-Qaeda is holding Iranians to sort of do a deal. But they're sort of both kind of blackmailing each other. But Osama is also saying, wait, we don't want Iran as an enemy because it's an important pipeline for our people to come and go to other parts of the world. They can't obviously fly in through Karachi harbor, and Iran is the country next door. It's important for our interests in Afghanistan. So there's this hatred, but also this friendship. And I think one of the things that the CIA is probably trying to say is that, look, there's this bit of paper that shows some of their key people were being held there with the support of Iran's intelligence services. But if you look a little more carefully at the documents, it's not quite that simple.
But America itself hasn't really decided what it wants to do with Iran. When Osama was killed and captured and killed, it was Obama's policy to make a deal with Iran. Now Trump has completely reversed that.
Completely
so what
reversed.
do we make of it?
Well, if you were a cynic, you would say that the CIA is brought out this tranche of documents that weren't supposed to be brought out just at the time when Donald Trump is picking a fight with Iran over the nuclear deal. Now, Trump's European partners and the International Atomic Energy Agency have turned around and said, we don't think there's anything in the American case. We're perfectly capable of monitoring Iran's nuclear program to make sure they don't go trying to manufacture a nuclear bomb. But Trump has been looking for a weapon, and maybe in these papers he thinks he's found one.
Now, this book on Osama called The Exile by Adrian Levy and Kathy Scott Clark says it has some very interesting chapters on this relationship between Pakistan and Iran and how the al-Qaeda or Osama's sort of senior people move al-Qaeda fighters from Pakistan across the desert into Iran. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, that's still going on from what we know from cases that have been unearthed over the last several months. What becomes clear in these documents, what we've already known, let me start with that, is that there are a lot of human trafficking and criminal networks that take not just terrorists across Iran into the Middle East and then on to Europe, but also illegal immigrants, also people from India, Pakistan, even India, looking to make it to Europe. Because if you can make it across Iran, you're into Turkey, and from Turkey there's a porous border into Europe. And, this is a well-established human trafficking route. Now, what hasn't been clear all these years is whether this is just a bunch of criminals doing this who pay off border guards and stuff, but whether Iran's intelligence services and the government are actually in on this and supporting it.
Or they're playing both sides.
And now it's clear that some of al-Qaeda's senior people certainly were in fact in contact with Iran's government and the intelligence services and moving people out. But when you dig a little bit deeper, you realize that yes, this contact was there, but both sides were regularly blackmailing each other, taking each other's prisoners, suspicious of each other's motives, this is pretty much what you would expect from an intelligence service in Iran's situation. That okay, al-Qaeda is our enemy's enemy, that is America's enemy. Al-Qaeda thinking that okay, Iran is our enemy's enemy, but neither of them think enemy's enemy is a friend, and enemy's enemy is also an enemy. We'll just see what we can get out of them and what we have to give for what we can get out of them.
What about on his personal side? We know that Osama had 3 wives. His third wife was his favorite, but he had several children as well. Now, tell us a little bit more about these children. What are the papers saying?
Earlier this year, we had the first statements from the man who everyone thinks will be Al-Qaeda's next generation prince, Osama bin Laden's surviving son, Hamza.
Okay.
And nobody's had a picture of Hamza, a very good one.
And he's alive, and where is he?
He's alive. He's by some reported to be in Iran, by others reported to be in Pakistan.
I see. But we don't know. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows for certain. What you do have are letters arranging for Hamza's transport out of Pakistan's tribal areas and telling him to go south to Karachi.
I see.
And appointing someone to make that journey
Hamza
safe.
could be in Karachi?
Could be. If he could be anywhere. Ayman al-Zawahiri, we don't know where he is. But here we have a wedding video of Hamza bin Laden's wedding. So the first pictures of the wedding and everyone at it. He marries the daughter of an Al-Qaeda operative from Egypt who was also in Pakistan's northwest. He's the son of Osama's oldest wife, Khaira. We have lots of family photographs. We have letters to the son. So a glimpse. The letters to the son, again, very interesting. Very little personal there. So no, beta.
What are you doing? What do you
think about life? But usually sets of instructions. And it would seem that Osama bin Laden certainly saw his son as someone, as his successor, or certainly someone important in Al-Qaeda.
Right.
We're all looking forward to get a closer look at those documents to see what more.
So the personal, from the personal to the professional, it's the entire gamut in the Osama bin Laden files.
Personal, the professional, and even the silly films.
Well, we will wait for those. But thank you, Praveen, so much for your time. We will be watching this story as it unfolds. Praveen will certainly be watching it, and you can read about it in the Indian Express. Meanwhile, thanks for your time.